this isn't relevant to this video, but I thought this would be a nice shot. So these are relatively recent pieces. They're Ethiopian icons and processional crosses. They're from the 18th century, so they're not that old. They're relatively new, but they're pretty representative of what the average Ethiopian icon and processional crosses look like. So this is a 20th century Ethiopian healing scroll. I mean, this one is also like relatively recent, but this practice has been in Ethiopian Orthodoxy forever. So the healer writes these prayers on it, and also has all these images that serve as like talismans. There's an angel up there. There is like a divine face, and other images are crosses down here. This actually, so then like the healer would like use it to heal people. It's supposed to be as tall as the patient. I remember hearing in history class that this actually derives from pre-Christian Ethiopian like religious practices. So this is kind of like a syncretic practice, the use of these scrolls for healing. So that's pretty neat. These crosses were made by, Jesus, like on a crucifix without a cross, I guess. So these were made by ethnic Congo artists in the Congo from the 16th to the 19th century. By the way, I'm reading some of this information off the placards, but I'm also providing my own explication. So this is by Congolese artists. I think I've featured Congolese art on my blog before, but it closely resembles just general Congo art. So the little tiny dudes on either side of these Congo crosses, they're supposed to represent mourners or ancestors. So this is like another sort of like a syncretic Christian symbology. Who's that saint up there? We'll find out later. It's just like a who's that Pokemon thing. I get it. This is a 12th century Spanish piece of the crucifixion of Jesus. Beside Jesus is Mary and his disciple John. So this is a 15th century wooden statue of St. Catherine of Alexandria. She is standing atop a pagan Roman emperor. So she was from by the way, so this thing is from Austria. So she was an Egyptian, so I guess she must have been a Copt, but they have her looking very European and fat. So this is an interesting Italian piece. So the original marble parts of it were done in the 2nd century. It was supposed to be like a Roman philosopher or god, but in the 16th century it was redone and had like all these metal pieces put on so that it would represent St. Peter instead. This is a 14th century French reliquary for saint relics. So all over Europe, in a variety of churches, they would have these fancy-ass containers to put the body parts of saints, or allegedly the body parts of saints. Sometimes it's like they were just random body parts that they just thought were parts of saints. So this is a 16th century Italian bust of a young John the Baptist. This is a 16th century Italian painting of a clergyman. He has a Bible with him. Yeah, I'm Christ-bagging out right now. This is a lot of medieval Italian art. This is a late 15th century work of Mary and Jesus. I'd like to call it Our Lady of Down Syndrome, but it's actually called Madonna and Child Enthroned. I believe it was in like one of my history textbooks when I was in high school, because I remember seeing this. I remember this fly being here. This as painted on. It's weird. So this is the center of an altarpiece. The other pieces are in other museums, but this one is called The Coronation of the Virgin, with 5 music-making angels, which are down here. It's a 15th century painting of the Nativity. These are early 15th century paintings of St. Bartholomew and St. Anthony Abad. So this Italian piece was made in the 14th century in the aftermath of the bubonic plague as like an assurance of the accessibility of Mary and the Lord Jesus' help. This 14th century icon of Mary with the baby Jesus. So it used to be a part of another altarpiece, just like that other one. Wow, like I don't understand. Did artists like never see babies or something? Like I do not understand why they all look like. So this is a 15th century marble statue of Gerard of Villamagna. So he was like an orphan who joined the Crusades, Deuswald, and became a knight. And yeah, he's dressed as a monk here, I guess. Okay, I finally left the Italian room. So this is a 15th century French portrait of a little girl of the age of 7. She died like a year after this painting was done. It shows her piety by showing her holding some rosary beads. This is a 16th century French piece. Very pretty, I think. Oh, there's a glare on the glass though, goddamn. It's very small. Here's my hand next to it. Very cute. Very small beanie. It's a 15th, 16th century Dutch altarpiece. So in the middle, it features Jesus being mourned over. Then we've got John the Baptist over here for some reason, who was dead at this point. I don't know why he's there. And there's also St. Catherine of Alexandria, looking very European, even though she was Egyptian. Yeah. This is a 16th century Protestant German painting of Jesus and Mary. They have some grapes, which is supposed to be representative of the Eucharist, because wine comes from grapes. He looks turned. This is a 15th century Austrian piece that's made of pine and polychrome gilt. And it depicts Jesus' body. He was taken down from the cross, intended to by his friends. So there's his mother Mary, and there's Mary Magdalene anointing his head in oil. Then there is St. John, looks like a girl. Yeah, I think, the artist did a really good job of making it look really, really good. There's a man sitting here earlier who was admiring it. He told me that he's always looking for a flaw in this piece and he can't find it. Okay, so we've got a 17th century Spanish twofer here. So we've got baby Jesus standing on top of these little angels, and we've got little John the Baptist, and they're chubby as fuck, and they actually did a okay job at depicting a child, kind of. Little baby chubby knees, baby chubby chicas, little baby chubby feet. Yeah, this is, look at this fabric on it. There was an intricate pattern, but it's kind of faded. Yeah. Little baby hands. Got little dimples on his hands, oh my god. This is a 16th century Spanish painting by El Greco, who was a famous painter. So it shows Jesus driving the money changers out of the synagogue. Angry. And in the corner here we have a bunch of Renaissance painters. It's kind of weird and random. And just some little babies just hanging out there while Jesus is just beating people up. This is a 17th century Austrian ivory figure of Saint Jerome while he was a hermit in the desert. Looks very dry. Look at them folds in his belly. This is a 16th century Italian painting of a cardinal, and that is Saint Jerome in the background. For some reason, I don't know why. So I find this to be an interesting 16th century Spanish painting. Instead of the traditional crucifixion drawing, it shows Jesus contemplating his tortures just with the symbols of the torture, instead of just having him being hanging on a cross. I don't know where this one is from, but it is an 18th century ivory piece, so it shows Jesus on the cross, still alive, and you can sort of see the agony that he's experiencing from the shape that his body takes on here. '16th century German stained glass. So here we have Jesus learning from an angel that she's going to give birth to the Messiah. Here's the nativity. Here's the visit of the Magi. Here is Jesus' resurrection. There's a sleeping guard, I guess. I don't know. Then here is the Last Judgment. So this is my most favorite painting in the whole museum. It's huge. It's beautiful. I'm not even Catholic, but I love it. Oh my god. It's a 17th century Italian painting of St. Augustine and St. Monica. Seeing the Virgin Mary, she stands atop the crescent moon. That's so beautiful, I can't get over it. Oh my god. Who's that saint? It's Saint Benedict. So this is a 18th century Spanish piece made of polychrome and gilt wood and glass. And he's just preaching. Yeah, I think his eyes are the thing that's made of glass. Can't really see here, but the eyeballs are very shiny. This is an 18th century Italian marble piece of St. Paul the Hermit, who was an Egyptian saint. When I saw this like from the distance, I thought it was Saint Jerome again. He's got like this cool blanket thing to cover his giblets. 17th century French painting of Saint Ambrose. Okay, so I ran out of memory on my camera, so I went to my car and got my phone, and now I'm gonna record more. Yay! So this is an 18th century Italian painting. It actually depicts an Old Testament scene of the Jewish heroine Judith meeting Holofernes, who is an Assyrian general. Actually, I don't think this is in the Protestant canon of the Old Testament. I think it's in the Catholic canon. I don't quite remember. This is a Spanish wooden piece made around 1500. It depicts Mary breastfeeding Jesus, which is pretty cool. Another French piece from the 14th century. It's made of stone. Mary and Jesus. It's so fucking funny, Jesus. So this is a depiction of the aftermath of the beheading of John the Baptist. It is a 18th century Italian piece. So like before I came to the museum, I was hoping I would be able to do like a thing where I hold my hand out like in front of his head, like I'm holding his beheaded head, and say Allah Akbar and point to the sky, but this painting is hung too high for me to do that, and also there are people in the room, so I'm not going to do that. So that above the door is a 17th century Italian painting of Adam discovering the body of Abel from the Old Testament. It's a 16th century Italian painting by Titian, actually, of Jesus being tempted. This is a 17th century Italian bronze bust of Pope Clement X. Got his fancy schmancy garb here. This isn't Christian art, but there's some really nice titties there. So this is a 17th century Dutch painting of St. Paul and Barnabas at the village of Lystra. They have been dressed as Roman gods because the villagers thought they were gods. So they've got like little wreaths of leaves, and I think they're being sacrificed to. And everybody looks really impressed. This is a beautiful 17th century Spanish painting of Mary Magdalene. A 17th century painting, a Dutch painting of a hermit praying. He's got his little prayer beads there, prayer book. There's a skull and a, what's it called? A time thing. Hourglass, sorry. Next to a crucifix, which I guess is supposed to represent death or something, or the brevity of life. That's actually exactly what the placard says about it. I promise that I figured that out myself. The 17th century Flemish painting of the temptation of Saint Anthony, who was a hermit in the Egyptian desert. So this is a pair of 17th century French paintings of angels carrying items from Jesus' crucifixion. So this was supposed to be the, what is that thing? What the fuck is that thing? I don't know what that is. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, it was the thing that Pontius Pilate washed his hands in. Yeah, I had to look at the placard. Yeah, this guy is just carrying the sign that was over Jesus's crucifix, which I think it says Jesus, King of the Jews, Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. Yeah. This one's really neat though, like the lighting. Yeah, look at that lighting. Holy shit. So this is a 17th century Dutch painting of Peter's denial of Jesus. God, look at that lighting! Wow, it's really impressive. It's a 17th century Flemish painting of Jesus' betrayal at the hands of Judas. So you can, sorry, the glare on the paint, so you can see Judas has red hair. Yeah, Judas is depicted in a lot of Christian art as having red hair. I don't remember why. I think red hair was associated with bad things in Europe or something. This is a French 17th century painting of Moses defending the daughters of Jethro from the Old Testament. I don't really like this one very much. I don't know, like just the shadows seem very like lacking. I don't know, like in the background. So this is in 17th century terracotta Italian piece of Pope Liberius baptizing the neophytes. I do not know who the neophytes are. I have no idea. Yeah, let's look at some of these details. So some of these, a lot of the details are like sort of sculpted out of the terracotta, but there are also some in the background that are sort of just scratched in, like these guys. It looks really neat though. It's a 17th century Italian painting of a cardinal. This is an 18th century Italian painting of the Trinity in Purgatory. There's Jesus, there's God the Father, there's Holy Spirit. The lighting here is kind of bad. But this is an 18th century Italian painting of Jesus sort of rescuing a woman caught in adultery, stopping people from stoning her. This is the part where he writes in the dirt. The Bible doesn't say what he was writing in the dirt. It's unclear if he was actually writing or what. It's from, I believe it's from St. John, the Gospel of John. It's a part of the Gospel of John that wasn't originally in the Gospel of John, that was inserted later, and it's by a different author. It might be like a tradition, like an authentic tradition that survived, but we don't know. This is an 18th century Italian painting of the story of the prodigal son. It's a celebration of the prodigal son's return. I'm guessing that's his father. And then everybody's celebrating, it's a big party, yay. This is also an 18th century Italian painting of Mary and the baby Jesus with some martyrs. So there is Saint John right here and Saint Paul. It's not Saint John and Saint Paul from the New Testament. It's different ones, or they were like in the Roman army or something. And then there is, what's his face, a martyr called Saint Peter, not the biblical Saint Peter. He is dressed as a Dominican friar. So this is an 18th century French painting of John the Baptist. He looks so moody here, I love it. And we've got this super anachronistic cross that he's carrying with him. This is a humorous 18th century British piece. So there's a preacher here and the whole congregation is asleep because his sermon is very boring apparently. So this is a 18th century Italian piece of Mary with infant Jesus and little John the Baptist with this fancy gold, I guess it's gold and silver frame. It's pretty neat. Here's another piece that depicts the Jewish heroine Judith. I'm pretty sure she's like in the Catholic canon of the Old Testament, so she's just carrying the head of Holofernes. I don't know how that's pronounced. It's made of terracotta, and it's an 18th century Italian piece. Can I do it here? Okay. Allah Akbar. So this is a 19th century French painting of a monk who is studying or praying or something near the Colosseum. So this painting, even though it's French, it is in Rome, Italy. It's really small. It's really small too. So this is an 18th century British painting of a Protestant clergyman's wife. I just think it's noteworthy because this is kind of risque, I guess. I don't know. This is a 19th century French painting of the Old Testament figure Job with his friends. His friends are like arguing with him. That's like most of Job. Very sad. This is an early 19th American painting that depicts scenes from the Book of Revelation. Of course, an American painter would do this. Most of the outlines are very thick on this one. I don't know. I think it looks nice, but it's kind of strange. The outlines are like that. This is a late 18th century British painting of the marriage of the Duke and Duchess of York. We see clergymen overseeing the wedding. So this is an 18th century French terracotta figure. It's supposed to be like a prototype for another like a larger statue. So it's of Saint Vincent de Paul, and he was known for helping abandoned and abused infants and children. They're just some fucking like babies lying around. And like people didn't like it because it didn't really show him helping them. But the final version of this piece showed him picking up one of the children, so I'm sure that one's great. I wish you could see it because this is kind of funny. I don't know. It's kind of sad. Oh, the baby is so dead looking. This is an 18th century Italian painting depicting the massacre of the innocents as a result of Herod trying to kill baby Jesus. They are just, oh my god, a little baby getting murdered. So this is an early 20th century American painting. This guy appears to be like carving out a new crucifix. There's a crucifix on the wall of his house. Seems to be his children here. There. So there's Mary, I guess. I don't know who that is. This is a mid-20th century painting, American painting of a man named John Brown reading the Bible. I don't know who John Brown is. I don't like this one, it's ugly. It's really ugly. Oh yeah, that's the dude I came for, yeah. Okay, so that's it. That's all I got for right now. I could have sworn that like a couple of times ago that I went here, I saw some like Mexican or Latin American like biblical art, but I didn't find it this time. I also did not see any Asian Christian art. So I don't know, but a lot of cool art. It's cool. Yeah. Bye.